Alright, I'd like to call this house to order before we start the debate. Please make sure that your phone is on silent or on vibrate. Only leave in between speeches, not during speeches, so you don't distract the speakers and to respect the debaters that are speaking. My name is Alison, I'm your chair for this round. Paneling with me is Izzat and Mithrun. On government, we have Batu Lintang A. And on opposition, we have Sasuka. I'd like to congratulate both teams for making it thus far. So, without further ado on the motion, this house will ban hostile architecture in public spaces. I'd like to call upon the Prime Minister to begin the debate. Here.
The unfair expectation that was placed onto me that I need to be employed, that I need to have a job if I were to be accepted in society. This is the unfair expectation that is placed onto these homeless individuals in the first place, when these homeless individuals aren't capable or at least don't have some form of survivability in order to find the jobs that the government or the society face or the society expects them to do so. I will characterize three things. One, why we're banning hostile architecture in the first place. But second of all, I'll tell you why hostile architecture is harmful for these individuals. But let us explain what hostile architecture is. I think that hostile architecture is a design in which, like the public facilities, are not designed in a way that homeless people can sustain their livelihood. Meaning to say that these spikes are directed to harm if they were to sleep onto those benches in the first place. This is why it is important to recognize these homeless people in the first place. But when you even if you recognize these people, the benches or like the benches that are designed to harm these individuals couldn't let the individuals like homeless people at least live a basic life, which means that do not have a place to stay. But second of all, we tell you that the public spaces are especially shared by an entire community. So I think when you consent to go outside to a park or you go outside to a shopping mall, that is the point in which we consent into being publicly seen, right? Or accept that there are the differences of other individuals as well. So that is the point in which in my perspective, the choice in which I take to go to a mall or to go to a park, I will be risking to see like a homeless people. I think that narrative should change, in which the negative discussions that are surrounding homeless people in the society should change as well. And I'll explain to you my substantives. But banning is simply you want to disallow any designs that are structured in the sense that it harms these individuals to not let them at least have some basic needs or to live their life. We tell you that in the circumstance in which, at the very least, has some form of survivability, that is the point in which where the discussion suddenly tweaks. And second of all, we think that these homeless people have this survivability and this motivation that the government gives in order to create or like do something about their state of being homeless. That is the point in which where there feels some form of acceptance from the government in the first place. So when the government takes initiative to do so, the society will eventually do so. But I'll explain to you right now. I think that the government is complicit within those harms in the first place. I think that the government is involved within the state of them being homeless in our status quo. The problem in which government does this is because these suburb areas are really underdeveloped in the first place. And this is why where the suburbs are underdeveloped, this is why these homeless people are denied to access to goods, access to education, or access to basic needs. And this is why when they grow up, they become homeless people. But when they grow up to become homeless people, But still, the society still disses them around, casting them aside from society because they are simply disrupting other people's lives. But I think the government should take charge of this. It's time to stop from letting them being harmed. But I think that not only structural changes should be made in order to develop these suburb areas, but also at the same time, I think that we should incorporate or like let them integrate within our society, like to have them, to give them some form of basic needs, or at least at the short term, some place to live in order to find further jobs, right? I think that this is rather important. But I think that government creates and underdevelop these suburb areas in the first place is really, really harmful. Because two outcomes from this. People are then suffering on their lives, which means that the sustainability of these individuals or sustainability of these homeless people will be gone. At the point in which where can't find a place to live, there is the point in which desperation arises. There is a point in which someone like a homeless people standing there will be more and more desperate for the basic needs. This is when the disruption under your side will be further harmful because people down then are more desperate to go and pester around the normal pedestrians walking in the society or walking in the streets, right? This is the point in which where the disruption happens further under your pressure. Even if our worst case were to be that these homeless people do not be still finding a job, I think that it is important that we still recognize or change the narrative. So if we change the narrative, that is when the society will be able to have some form of discussions about this. That is the point in which where the negative biases don't arise anymore. But at the very least, we have started people talking about accepting individuals like homeless people in the sense that they are part of our society.
Sure. Given that these people are already that desperate to sleep in public places as opposed to just like neighborhoods and seeking refuge at other people's homes, then why do you think that the narrative of sympathy is that alleviating to these people, and what is the incentive for them to engage with this?
I think that it is a morally correct thing to accept homeless people, because the first thing that we would say is that the society really doesn't accept these homeless people at the first place. And this is when the harm comes. Because when you go to a society, when you go to a normal person, he will just diss you aside or call you someone that is very useless. So that is the point in which where the words that they use to explain what you are, that's the point in which where you feel like your identity is being harmed in the first place. So therefore, when they do so, the motivation for you in order to find other jobs. But not only that, the motivation from the government not giving you the place to stay in the first place is already stating that you are a useless individual. This is not a point in which we make the condition worse for the homeless people, where they feel less motivated or feel less accepted in the society to find a job. I think it is more important that the society is willing to recognize that homeless people is a problem and that we should give them some form of empathy. And not only that, I think that in order for that empathy discussion to happen, the government needs to take initiative. So when the government is a role model of every single individual within society, that is the point in which the government will be able to make structural changes or make changes to the negative discussions about the individuals that are homeless. So what is the negative discussion? I think the negative discussion is when people say that homeless people shouldn't be accepted. And there are people that are disrupting our lives, and there are people that are really useless in our society and that should be expelled from our side. This discussion should change because people now then will only diss around these individuals in the first place. But I think second of all, people cannot really find an employment at the point in which the sustainability is severely damaged. We think that firstly denied simple access to rights in suburb areas. The point in which where we do so or to start to incorporate or change the hostile architecture, to the point in which we don't want to increase the desperation for them in order to resort to other harmful things like further disrupting other people's life. This is the point in which where they feel accepted or at least some certain discussions are arising, so therefore they can live at least a good life instead.
I thank Prime Minister for that speech. Now I call on the Leader of Opposition. You have the floor.
Panel, those who reject change is the architecture of destruction. There exists a need to shift the needs in status quo, that is say we support these kinds of architecture. This debate isn't about homeless people getting a place to sleep. We can see to the fact that when people are homeless and they are introduced to such architecture, you will find another place to sleep. It's about the rhetoric you send to society. This debate is about homeless people, not in homeless people and the benefits they gain in the short term, but the sustainability of them and the effort to take them away from a subservient life. But before that, I'll move on to my rebuttals. Firstly, let's see their context they want to push to side opposition. They illustrate a world where homeless people are systematically disenfranchised and below what status quo this actually is. But this debate actually hints us little of where this debate takes place into. So given that most likely this hostile architecture is done by capitalistic companies, we say this debate takes place in first world countries where there is an incentive to make such change, right? We say in places like this, we already see structural reforms and also vocal support for poor people. We see the increasing vocal support for them. We see there's cheap houses in places like Johor. Even if Malaysia isn't a first world country, we see the approximation of helping poor people is there, right? We see the IMF helping poor people, or more likely homeless people, to alleviate themselves away. So we say the context they tried to push from opposition was very unfair, and I'll tell you why it was important, why it was very disruptive for them to do that. So let's talk about their biggest benefit on their side. Second rebuttal, they want to change the rhetoric. The premise he used is that people in status quo disses them off. They hate poor people, they hate homeless people. Notice how their benefit is contingent upon other people accepting poor people. This is where we see that there was a logic gap. They want to suggest that their MEC was not allowing poor people to sleep in public places, and the benefit that they do from this is that people will be more accepting of it. This is where we see there was a logic gap, and I think a better way of saying this is the substantive coming from our side, is that people will continue to homogenize them, and I'll talk more about this in my substantive. Let's see my first principal argument. Why catering to the homeless is built on features of ignorance. Firstly, it's built upon negligence. The comparative they need to defend is no reforms for homeless people. Why was this so? Under treaty respect, because there's no attraction. On a comparative, it's more likely for people to not voice out when there's no shift in the status quo. They continue to live a subservient life without questioning because it's something normal for them, right? This means there's no one voicing out or more on a scale, much less compared to a world where they are not fed under our side. It's more hard for other people to help them, other people who are not homeless to engage with them, when these people deny that there's a problem in the first place. The rhetoric that often comes out in status quo, where people the rhetoric that will come up under their side when people are fed, is that the life that I'm living now is not subservient, but it's okay, so I don't need to question anymore, right? We say this is the likeliest outcome that will occur under their side. But secondly, why it is built on features of ignorance is because it entrenches hierarchy. So when people view homeless people sleeping in the streets, the rhetoric that you push to them is that these people are lazy, that these people are less of a value compared to us. Finding that rhetoric is important because you get empowerment principally. Thirdly, why it's built on features of ignorance is because it relies on the goodwill of people. So when hostile architecture is in there, you allow shopkeepers or guards patrolling the depot to make the decision to oust them out, right? So what you get under our side, but before that,
if there is no incentive like giving you a place to sleep from the government to help you, where do you get the initiative to continue to seek for a job if you feel like the government already comes?
Okay, if you follow my structure of my speech, I already told you why it's much harder for you to get structural reforms on your side under poor people. But this is where I will move on to my second substantive. What do you get under our side? Firstly, you fight the bad rhetoric and the connotation that exists in poor people. So you cap people's ability to homogenize homeless people as being lazy. The reason why it's more likely for this to happen under their side is because homeless people are now dependent on other people and also dependent on people and relying on their goodwill to give them a place to stay. And it's more exclusive to homeless people because it's much more clear to them. So it's much more likely for them to see a homeless people on the street sleeping there, and is able to make the thought that these people are lazy. The reason why this is helpful, because we can see that there are many homeless people who is trying to fight, what they call it, by themselves. Homeless people attempting to get jobs, homeless people attempting to get money. But we say it's very much harmful when other people are disallowing these people who want to get jobs and want to uplift themselves, when they continue to homogenize homeless people as being lazy and unable to commit to society. So what are the benefits you get on the outside? You get more vocal support. This vocal support does exist in status quo, but it's often more often than not, it's monopolized by the opposition, and the connotation that comes with them is that they are merely lazy. The comparative on the outside is that you took the discussion and you took the scale and you make the discussion favor homeless people more, right? So what's the pragmatic benefits that you can gain for this? You get more vocal support, you get people pushing, you get people opting into the idea, but most importantly, you get homeless people engaging with the idea themselves. We can see that there is a problem in status quo when homeless people themselves don't want to engage with the problem. This is when no change can happen. But when you push them in a way where they're required to shift status quo and they are required to make a change in their lifestyle, that is why the only change that they could make is forward. With that, I'm very proud to host.
I thank the leader of opposition for that speech. Now I call on Deputy Prime Minister.
Side of opposition sounds like very privileged people. Because in fact, they are actually very privileged people. The point in which we want to invite people into our houses to seek refuge is a moral high ground take. The reason why this doesn't happen on the other side of the house because they never had a good narrative to begin with. This good narrative that has to be reflected by the government, the sole authority that reflects the morality of society.
Yeah.
So if I don't have the moral high ground to take, there's no reason for me to invite people into my homes. But if this is what their outcome is, they won't get it either. Because people under their side of the house have no reason for it to invite people into their houses. Because the government to begin with has already tried to eject people from public benches to their house. So what is the reason for me to have a nice bungalow but wanting to invite people that have shabby clothes into my house if the government doesn't want to take care of them? I want to shift the burden onto me. Second thing, support for poor people having cheap homes. Mr. Speaker, these people are in dire circumstances. They live in the mentality of one day means one day, if I die tomorrow means I die tomorrow. I don't think that they will have money to plan about buying homes. I think it's more about engaging them on a more direct premise and a more immediate premise in which we need to give them the help they need right now. Thirdly, rhetoric is a problem that people need to have good rhetoric to accept them. I'll flag you out the response later. It's a big argument. Sit down. Number 4, people don't voice out. And now there's no change. You see, the reason why people don't want to voice out now is because they don't engage with you. Your rhetoric, your narratives is something that is not relatable to privileged individuals under their side of the house here. And I'm going to tell you why. When the government is in action to only ban these hostile architectures is the point where you spark positive discussion, you spark the kind of discourse within society, the kind of good narratives that they expect individuals to have. Lastly, the idea of people how people are ignorant. So if the outcome was trying to make people aware of these issues, I need to hear from DOO. Why now people even more displaced under their side of the house will create this kind of social awareness? Because you have to recognize, when you don't have these public benches to sleep, where are people going to go? They're not going to go to your corporations, not going to your offices, not to your lobbies. They're going to go to beside those streets. So if they appear they're scattered and displaced around the streets, I need to hear why then you have social awareness rather than having those individuals being seen as somehow of individuals that are supported and recognized by the governments that are at a disadvantage as opposed to those privileged individuals under their sides of the house. So things like people are lazy and all these narratives are not actually excuses. under their side of the house. A few things are very clear speech. Number one, how is the government's duty to act in today's circumstance? The government's duty is to maximize the happiness and utility of these individuals. And it cannot dictate how these individuals should live their life. Because when you have these kind of architectures, you are trying to send a subliminal message to people, trying to tell them they are forcing you away. Because you cannot live like someone that is living around society but not contributing back to society. You are trying to tell these homeless individuals that you are homeless people, that you are pests in society, you're eating off the economic prosperity of the country, and you are just somewhere there to waste our resources. That is the kind of message you send to people. I think it's very harmful because it's not you know the government to send these kind of messages to people, but to empower them, to motivate them. But even if you cannot motivate them, you cannot go to the negative side of sending these harmful messages. Sit down. These are the individuals that are still a citizen, that are still under your jurisdiction. And when you exercise your legislation, I think as a government, you have to maintain the basic welfare of these individuals. You cannot go to the extent of giving them houses. If you cannot go to the extent of giving them good education, I think the very least that you give are places to sleep every single night of their lives. Because these homeless individuals are also people that vote for you, are also individuals that participate within the kind of legislation within your country. No, thank you, Minister. So the logic is, everyone wants to be happy, everyone wants to live in mansions. I want to live in a mansion as well. But if homeless people are okay with other individuals seeing them and shaming them as homeless people, and they still want to be in those circumstances, I think that is where they decided the utility they have in life. They decided what happiness means to them. So if they want to live their way, I think, sure, the government cannot stop them from not living in this way. But even if they had a will, right, even if they had the will to get out of those circumstances, I tell you they already are at a circumstance that they cannot, because they are already not able to find a job, because these are the people that are prisoners, these are the people that are systematically oppressed by the government. So they don't have the education, they don't have the prerequisites to find a job, the criteria to find a job to begin with. So there is no incentive even for the corporations, for MNCs to want to employ these people. So if your outcome was to make these people be employed under your side of the house, you are never going to materialize it as well. No, thank you. So if they cannot find a job, there's no house, there's no family to go to, I think the only thing you resort is in pubs. This is when you push these individuals to do crimes of desperation. That is when your incarceration rates are on a sky high as a status quo, because now they are being discarded. So think in the eyes of an individual, in circumstances they don't necessarily want to be in, the reason why our position sounds so privileged is because we are very lucky. They're lucky to be born in the most privileged tier. You are going to universities like Taylor's and Monash. These are people that are trying to find food. These are people that are trying to find places to live. So they already didn't start off with equal ground as you. That is why you are not able to engage in the same way as how they do. They are living in the mindset of wanting to survive within society, and now you're trying to blame them on eating off the economic prosperity of the country. I think it's very harmful under your side of the house for individuals to have this kind of mindset. Just imagine your child being in those circumstances one day, you will also want the reciprocal effect of individuals helping your child should he be a homeless person. I hope it doesn't happen. Number two, narrative. What will people say that? Now, the government has discarded them, so why do I have to take out that? This is the response. My third response is up to you now. So the minds of CEOs and bosses and employers is that the actual reason is, yes, you want to help them to find a job, but luckily we are all debaters. We have the critical thinking to engage in that kind of a level. But I think real world, Madam Speaker, is that people are only think that these homeless individuals are people that are scattered out there, and the government don't want to help them. This is shaped by the government under the morals we've been shaped under our side of the house. The subliminal message that we send out to privileged individuals is these are also people, are also the telecom countries, they breathe the same air, they also sing the same language with you. It's about how we help these individuals. I think this kind of narrative happens under our side of the house, and it's the better of narrative that can happen. Now, you create social awareness, you make people share pictures of these homeless people on social media. You create the kind of social awareness that you want, you make those employers aware. But how is people under our side? Because the pictures under their side of the house will be about a homeless picture, but the second picture is about ventures lifestyle. So I don't think that people will then want to relate with you about how we should help these individuals. So if you think that these fellow people is something that needs to be integrated with other privileged individuals in society, you have to go side down.
I think that the Prime Minister's speech not a call on
Poverty is itself is inevitable. In anywhere country we go, we always see people lying in the streets, lying around. But this debate should also happen in the middle ground, a world in which these poor people really have the incentive to change, or is it a world in which society has a good perception of them? We see that under their side, it was pretty dismissive to begin with. But I'll argue why in my rebuttal integrated argument. Right? So why is it justified to begin with? We say that individuals have the rights to public comfort, the right to exclude from these kinds of people, because this debate also happens in a wide spectrum. A world where this hostile architecture also affects individuals who want to do or commit crimes, i.e. do vandalism and do graffiti, skating on, we deter that. Because oftentimes in public places, they are the places hotspot, places like Kuala Lumpur, oftentimes these individuals go there to beg, right? Where these individuals, Rohingya refugees in Kuala Lumpur, people who are already exploited and harmless to begin with. What happens then, right? We say it affects the individual's perception. Consider that society already has a bad perception of these individuals, but he never told you why was it really exclusive that their society will change, right? Their side even more, we say that under their side, they will have a more bad perception, I'll tell you why later. And he already considered that individuals would be more desperate. We say individuals who always live under the bench, right, will be more desperate under their side. Crimes of desperation will always happen under their side, will be more likely to happen under their side. Why? The moment when these poor and homeless individuals are out there in public places, and oftentimes they are prone to things like seeing individuals eating at fancy restaurant, eating and going to the cinema, necessarily they'll become more desperate and be more aggressive in finding money. That's just the narrative that exists. But we say under our side, when we seclude these individuals, when we don't let these individuals in public places, then necessarily they'll have to be more desperate, but they'll have to be more desperate in other ways. Right? We say crimes of desperation is more likely to happen under their side. But secondly, right, why do they have the rights? Is that because they are morally disturbed. Because oftentimes society has a perception whether or not they want to help these individuals or whether or not they don't want to help. In a world in which crimes of desperation are more likely to happen on their side, we say that morally disturbs individuals who want to help them, right? Disturbs their natural judgment. Because I told you, why would they become aggressive? And necessarily when they become aggressive, people have bad perception towards them, that they are too aggressive and they are too bad, right? Why does social awareness be less likely to happen on their side? The moment when society has a bad perception towards you, the moment when society sees that you are just desperate little prick that don't want to work at all, then necessarily you just won't do it. Society will never have a good perception under your side. Why are these rights important? Number one, society's perception. In a world where, in a utopian world where there's little homeless people, what is their destiny, right? Because we say that social awareness happens under our side. Because in the moment when these individuals that want to help them, they don't see poor people and homeless people under the streets anymore, they will come to think, where are the homeless people? What is their destiny? Then necessarily social awareness happens under our side. We told you why individuals will now be more or less likely, the homeless people will be more aggressive. Then there won't be any social awareness because people already hate them to begin with. But before I move on, sure.
I know to do this by two things. One, how you will make sure that people are going to invite people to your houses to regain the outcome. But two, how is that people will not depict these homeless individuals as the homeless interprets that you say of?
We say that's going under my second argument, we're about to integrate the argument, how it affects the psyche of poor and homeless individuals too. So we need to concede that these individuals are the people who are most vulnerable. What would be their direction? It's either A, it's to the extent in which they believe that government don't want to help, it's to the extent in which people stigmatize them, to the extent in which government don't want them to be in public places to begin with. That is the moment when they want initiative to change. Sure, there are two types of poor homeless individuals that will come out of this policy. A, individuals who want to change, and B, individuals who don't want to change. Even if individuals who don't want to change exist under our side, we say social awareness happens. It is a world in which society sees that, they are no longer happen, in which a society can make a natural judgment to the extent in which they believe that they should help to begin with, right? Why is it more likely to happen under our side? Because the best case scenario I can give in our side is that everyone wants to help them, right? Because that's the best case scenario. We say everyone wants to help them because they see that, hey, these homeless people aren't that bad. Hey, homeless people aren't that desperate, right? Then necessarily individuals under our side will more likely engage with these poor and homeless individuals, not to take account of whether they are people or not. But we say this perception is important. Why the psyche of homeless people would change is that we say under our side, when government assumes that you are just back in the accent which you don't have the rights to say in public places, that is the moment when they want to change, more likely to change. The psyche of others, right? Why is it more likely to change? We say that in poor countries, i.e. India or second example, how third world countries like Malaysia already have put in this mechanism in which they put hostile architecture. What happens then? We say that there's more discussion in Facebook, in which, there's more social awareness because that society realized that these poor individuals and these homeless individuals really need a place to begin with, rather on the other side in which these homeless individuals are more prone and more complacent to begin with because they really have no incentive. Why should I succeed? I can just beg by the streets, I can just beg by the bench, for example. They are more complacent on the other side. We say that there needs to be a change, there needs to be an incentive. We are acceptably proposed.
I think that freedom of opposition for the speech, the common ground, where we get here.
I think it's funny how the three gentlemen sitting on the left side of this table today are calling homeless little pricks and are trying to help these homeless people. And a couple of rebuttals that are integrated in today's debate, were integrated in my issues in today's debate. First issue, so who fulfills the proper role of government in today's debate? Firstly, the role of government is to maximize the utility and to maximize the happiness of the individuals. And at the point in which, on side government, where these people are actually denied a comfortable basic need to be able to stay on these benches. And take note, Madam Chair, these people are people who are of desperation. These people probably went to jail 20 years ago, houses burned down 10 years ago, and their aunt probably died 5 years ago. These are people who do not even have a cell phone to contact anyone. These are the people who are unable, who will be most likely shunned by society if they were to go out and look for a job. No, thank you. And at the point in which they go out and look for a job, what happens is that society will most likely shun them, and then they would not be able to get a job because firstly, they have been denied basic needs. Because bear in mind, these people also come from suburb neighborhoods. And when they have been denied basic needs, for example, education, no one will want to hire a person who has never ever got education. And even if someone were to actually and even if someone were to take note of these individuals, I believe that person would most likely be sacked in a couple of weeks because he probably doesn't know how to do anything. And these people also do not want money. These people just want to be able to live their lives day by day and most probably not die the next day. These are the people who want to be able to have a comfortable day to live and then, just want to have a comfortable place to stay in. And in side opposition's paradigm, they seem to think that by rejecting these people, but by putting stuff on this chair, they can do this. And I'm going to tell you how this doesn't happen in the third issue of today's debate. And on to the second issue in today's debate. No, thank you. On moral high grounds of individuals. It seems it's very funny how these side think that every single individual in their beautiful first world country are people who are moral saints, who think that their individuals are going to just open doors from their big multi-million-dollar bungalows and start welcoming tons and tons of homeless people into their homes. And they haven't also proved to us how the outcome of having moral people will happen. And at the point in which they haven't proved to us that outcome, it is also at the point in which the entire argument, the entire case fails. And I'm going to tell you why moral high ground of people doesn't work in today's paradigm, and even on their paradigm. At the point in which side opposition wants to install studs in chairs, wants to install inconvenient, impractical things onto benches, is also at the point in which their people are behind these things. Because remember, these people are the ones who voted for the government, and these are the people who are also going to support these rude actions, these impractical actions. And at the point in which your people who they have been trying to depict, their people have already supported these stuffs being installed, these impractical things being installed. It's also at the point in which their people are more unlikely to open the doors of their big ass bungalows and allow people to get into their house. And even if, on the best case scenario, let's accept their narrative in which they would actually accept people into their homes. And at the point in which they even, if their moral sinks actually allow people into their homes, I'm going to tell you what the outcomes of this is actually, because these individuals are definitely not going to allow these homeless people to become part of their families, allow them to stay in their homes for as long as they can. These people would have to eventually leave in the future. No, thank you. And when they eventually leave in the future, they will not have a place to stay. They will not have any basic needs fulfilled. And when this happens, these people will have to go to the streets. These people then have to go to the streets, which further enforces the burden that they kept pushing onto us, which is how these people are going to create a bad narrative in the future. And how does that happen? Firstly, when you push people onto the streets in the future, these people, especially in your world where people are rich as kids, their ass, they are probably going to move around on the streets and start taking pictures. Yes, there are going to be discourse in your side as well, but the problem here is that, no thank you, the problem here is that there is going to be negative discourse on your side, especially at the point in which people start taking pictures of these homeless people and start putting them on social media, but not with a caption which side government and side opposition provides, which is a positive discourse in which they actually empathize with these people. On side government, these people are going to have captions which are going to shun these homeless people. They're going to say, what are these useless people doing here? And what are these people doing here? They are not part of our society. They should get out. But on side opposition side, what happens is that when you actually allow people to stay on their bench, right? What happens is this perception in which the people will actually see that the government is already making an effort to try and change their lives. But at the point in which these people are already at the brink of desperation, at the brink of death, most probably because they might most probably be infected with cancer or something like that, this is also at the point in which these people would most likely be able to empathize with them, because they are going to know that these people have already tried every single way. Because trust me, sleeping on a bench is not as comfortable as side government depicts it to be. And therefore, when they are able to empathize with them, all the positive discourses, positive narratives will start coming out. And this is also what happens. And this is also at the point in which the benefits from side government becomes ours, which means that people would start helping them. People would then start trying to actually, multinational companies that they kept bringing up in today's debate would now start to try and help these people and start to employ them. Even if they would be no experience, even if they would be dumb, we see that they would also still empathize with them because they know that they are already at the brink of desperation. So, Madam Chair, if you want to listen to these three individuals sitting there with some beautiful shoes, please, and if you want to see homeless people at the brink of death in the future, and if you do not want to see that, please side with side opposition.
I thank the government whip. To end the substantive part of the debate, I'd like to call upon the opposition to continue.
This debate was never about who gives a home to his homeless people. Because if that was a debate, then government side will already have lost. Because they never really gave us a proper
they never really paint a picture to us on how they are actually giving homes to these people, or how they are actually incentivizing these people to alleviate themselves from the state that they are already in. Because the only thing that they want, their only defense was that empowerment and comfort should be given towards these people because they need it, because they are human beings. But we're saying that the trade-off is warranted because the state of being a human being does not warrant you to live off of other people's money and taxpayer money, right? So my speech will consist of questions. So number one, the question that they brought up was that the claim that they brought up was that it was unfair. So the question then we claim that it's not. So the question then becomes, is it really unfair, right? So what was their defense? They say that the state of being poor or homeless is purely upon the state, because they want to blame the state completely for people who are poor. Because on the basis that they fail to provide systematic help and stuff like that. But number one, the subjugation of individuals is not something that the state will benefit from, because necessarily states do not have an incentive to just create more poor people, because necessarily they have to provide for these kinds of people anyway, provided that they have to provide welfare and houses and subsidies for these kinds of people. So the incentive of state is not to create more poor people, but necessarily to incentivize them to alleviate themselves so that they can depend on themselves and not depend on state, right? But secondly, homeless people in particular are not people who the help has not been able to reach out to. These are the kinds of people who are necessarily already comfortable in the state that they're in, that they want to perpetuate whatever, because they have this connotation that living off of public facilities is already a good enough thing to do, right? Because in the end of the day, that's the best thing that they can do. So what's the missing part here in the psyche of these people is the push for them to remove this toxic mindset in order for them to find skill sets, find a job, instead of just sleeping on public benches, right? So that's so that's like the response, right? It is unfortunate that you don't have homes to begin with, but it's a warranted trade-off for us to make in order for them to get a push from society. But then they told us that the push will not happen because the narrative is not strong enough. But then they told us, number one, but what they told us was that people would necessarily alienate themselves, villainize these people, because necessarily there are people who perpetuate these kinds of notions on Instagram, on media, seeing that these people are useless and an insult to our society, right? But then we tell you number one. Obviously, this is a good thing for us because at least people are able to have a start on it and don't propagate the responsibility from government towards these people. But secondly, we tell you that it's okay that they villainize these people, because that is the incentive for homeless people to change, right? Given that these notions will be more widespread in media, then sympathetic people will also engage in this kind of discourse, right? We tell you that this kind of discourse is necessarily good because it brings about brings about a solution that is much more systematic and beneficial towards homeless people to begin with. Before I move on, points of information.
I think that the stigmatization will continue to be bad under your paradigm, because the government, that is the most important stakeholder, couldn't take initiatives. When individuals in the society couldn't self-reflect of the government taking certain initiatives, that is the point at which when the discourse continues to be bad.
We tell you that that's not true, right? Sympathetic people are sympathetic on the basis that they have goodwill. It's not based on whether or not state wants to help them or not. It's because state doesn't. It's because that they are seen to be in a bad state that they want to help them using their own resources, not that they want to help them on the basis of government. So that is completely unwarranted to begin with. So what's the issue that we tell you that the issue that becomes, what is the best solution for these? What's the best what's the next step for these homeless people to begin with? We tell you that the next step for these homeless people is to change their toxic mindsets and stop living off of public facilities. And we tell you that it's only on the outside that we push this narrative even more, because then these poor people will lose the kind of sympathy that they have lived on before. And we tell you that these given that they have to now live in no longer public places, they have to live in slums or in trash cans or something like that. Given that that is like a harsher living condition to begin with, and it's comfortable. So what's the obviously the biggest claim that they had was like structural changes will happen out of we tell you that that's not true.